This is Big Podcast.
It's Build a Big Podcast, the marketing podcast for podcasters. David Hooper with you. This is the audio version of my weekly newsletter. It goes out every week, every Friday. It's at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. And if you want all the links, that is where to go, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. This is some additional commentary. So if you want the links, you want the original, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. If you want this, and make sure you never miss an episode of this and the other episodes that I put out, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. The $100,000 podcasting studio. Sounds like a stretch, right? It's not. I actually know a lot of people with that kind of money in their studios, but I'm in Nashville, know a lot of music business people. A friend of mine, he's got a podcasting studio. That's what he's got in it, about $100,000 worth of gear, $60,000 mixing console. But in fairness, music engineer, he's doing more than just podcast. The point I'm making is that it's easy to spend a lot of money on podcasting. Just doing a ballpark figure, I don't know. So I got a couple grand in here. And well, who knows? That's minimum. But it's easy to do that. It is also easy to get a $70 mic, like the Samson Q2U. USB mic plugs right in your computer. It's pretty easy to sound good. That's going to get you, 60% there. Next level, that final 40%, that could cost a lot. $100,000? Probably not. And in this issue of Big Podcast Insider, I'm focusing on free tools, also free training that will help your podcast sound its best. Got an opportunity to work with Google and PRX, free fonts, but more importantly, how to use them. Free fonts are everywhere. This is how to use them, how to pair them. Speaker training, also free. Software to mix your podcast automatically, very similar to Auphonic, also free, and more. As a bonus, this is from me to you. My appreciation for you listening to me. The last book that I did, it is called Big Podcast. It's big. Audiobook over 10 hours long. The print book, close to 500 pages. I've got the print version and also the audio version. Your pick, one or the other, or get both. Absolutely free. There's no catch. But if you like what you read, you like the audiobook, you like what you listen to, I do ask that you leave me a review on Amazon, a review on Audible, whatever, if you like it. If you don't like it, come to me and let me know why you don't like it. Let me make it better. So deal, you like it, leave a review. Okay, cool. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I have the links there. You can download a Kindle version free. It's sent directly to your Kindle, your phone, however you read your ebooks, or get that audiobook sent directly to your Audible app. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Let's get into this training. Google Podcast Creator Program with PRX. Public Radio Exchange, big boys. Both those guys. They've got free training. If you're interested in it, you need to take action. And by that, I mean you need to apply for this today. This is the very last call. You are at the 11th hour, 11:59. The 2022 Google Podcast Creator Program Accelerator. This is designed for mid-career podcasters. Its purpose is to help you level up with a renewed focus on business development and audience growth. There are video strategies that you're going to learn, long-term sustainability, wherever you want to take it, they're going to work with you. The deadline is now. It is 11:59. Get it in today. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com is more information. You don't get opportunities like this. One, you don't get opportunities to work with these people, even if you can pay them. But now it is free. 2022 Podcast Accelerator Program, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Also from Google, I love this. Hundreds of free fonts. Do you know about Google Fonts? If you've got a blog, if you were doing a book, if you're doing podcast art, they put a lot of money into this because they want Google. They want the stuff that is on Google, that you find via Google, to be more accessible, also compatible. The problem most people have is that they've got a lot of fonts there. Most people don't know how to pair them. And it's very rare to see one font throughout a website, one font throughout a book, one font throughout your podcast artwork. I've got a list of the 11 most beautiful Google font pairs, most beautiful Google font combinations to help you make your podcast artwork stand out and get attention. I believe in these fonts. I actually use them in the books that I do. So if you're interested, it's going to come through on the Kindle. So go get that free download, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Also, these 11 most beautiful Google font pairs. This will help you to make artwork that gets attention. I actually talk about this in the book that I'm giving you. In that book, I talk about rules for fonts because there are rules when it comes to getting people's attention. One of them, no handwriting fonts. Don't do it. You want to know the other rules? Get the book. It's free. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com for that. Also free, automatic podcast mastering. This thing is cool. It's called Loudness FM. It's an automatic podcast mastering service for podcasters who want to sound great without worrying about all the technical stuff. In other words, you upload your raw file. It handles it. It levels you out. It's going to EQ you. It's going to make you sound great. If you like Auphonic, you are going to like this. Right now, it is free. They're testing it out. They need people to help test it with them. But it's pretty good. It's good for free. I've got it linked, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. You're going to love it. Just upload your audio file. One click. It's going to sound better. It can compress it. It can do everything that you need it to do. You might like it. You might want to stick around once they switch to a paid service. Maybe they'll give you a deal. Maybe they'll let you keep getting it for free. I don't know. But if you like Auphonic, you're going to love Loudness. It's at newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I've got a research study. This is interesting. Have you read Give or Take by Adam Grant? This is a great book. And he talks about how great it is for your career and for networking and for getting to know people when you are the kind of person that is going to do things like leave a review, like leave a recommendation on LinkedIn, like tell somebody about something great that you've experienced. Praising your competition benefits you. This is something else that's free because compliments and recommendations, they cost you nothing, but they can mean a lot to the people that you endorse. I know for somebody like me, somebody who lives and dies by his decision, I make money when people recommend me. And because of that, I'm the kind of guy that if you're a realtor, a mortgage broker, if you're another author, I'm going to recommend you all the time. People who do what I do, and maybe what you do, maybe you make money like I do. You make money when the wrench turns. You're not just collecting a check. You need that word of mouth. This talks all about that and why it's such an important habit to get into, how doing it actually is going to make your listeners trust you more. It benefits the people that you recommend. And because you're helpful to other people, it's going to expand your network. It's going to get you in the in crowd of people who actually have a lot of stuff going on. So if you're interested in that, learning about recommending your competition, go to newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I've got a challenge for you. Recommend your competition on your next podcast episode, or recommend your competition via Instagram. Want a double challenge? You know a podcaster? Let them know about me. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. You know I got good stuff, all this free stuff. I'm going to make you look good. It's going to help them. It's going to help me. Everybody wins. Next up, this is something I talked about a couple of issues ago. RSS spam. Your email address is in your RSS feed, right there in the open. And because of that, people can scrape that email address. They can send you marketing information, guest pitches. You're likely getting a lot of stuff. And it probably isn't a great match for what you do because people scrape those emails out of RSS feeds and they blanket send to everybody. What can you do? Let me ask you another question. What happens if you want to sell your podcast or you want to sell a project that you are working on? I've got the solution. It's called Vend Email. I mentioned this issue, everything in it is free. So this is free too. It's an easy and free solution to this problem. It lets you create a dedicated email address that you can use for your podcast feed or anything else. But what's really great about it is that it makes it easy to either, one, sell that email address to somebody else. So if you want to make money off of transferring all your podcast stuff, they will facilitate that for you. Or if you just want to give it away for free, you can do that too. You don't have to worry about everybody getting your real address. That's not such a big issue. But think about this. If you are doing a podcast that you think you're going to sell, and this happens all the time. I've done this. Transferred RSS feeds, domains, everything else over to somebody who wants to take over something for me, is willing to give me money for it. Okay, cool. If I'm not using it, I'm going to sell it to you. Maybe I'll give it to you. It's a problem if you transferred everything to everybody else, but some of the information for that podcast or for that website, whatever you're selling, is still coming to the email address that you still use. One email address that you can transfer over to somebody makes it easy. You don't have to open up a new Google account, don't have to do anything. It comes to you until it doesn't come to you, and it is free. It's called Vend Email, and more information, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. One of the best things that you can do if you want more listeners for your podcast is speaking live. A guy I know is a live event speaker, John Acuff. You might have heard of him. Started a podcast last year. He has grown this podcast through speaking live. You know how difficult it is for you to get reviews for your podcast, because not everybody's like me. Not everybody is like you. They are not the type of person that's going to leave a review or recommend something. So it's difficult. Let's acknowledge that. Jon Acuff, because he is out building that audience through live event speaking, he said, hey, help me out. I could use some reviews. This is how people are finding out if this podcast is worth listening to. So he puts the call out, and he's been doing it consistently. I'm going to talk about this and how he's done it in a future episode of Build a Big Podcast. Just for now, let's say he's been doing it consistently, just hit over 1,000 reviews. How many podcasts have over 1,000 reviews? You got to work for those reviews. That's why you see people trying to game the system. Hey, do a review swap with me. Those reviews don't count. The reviews that count are the people who are actually listening to you, that can tell their friends about what it is that you were doing. Anyway, he has built this by getting in front of large audiences. It's not uncommon for this guy to speak to 500, 1,000, 2,500, 5,000 people at a time. Got a virtual event for you. It's starting Monday, May 9th. It is free to attend. You will get the first day's recordings for free. I'm going to tell you the topics, but first, let me tell you why you should care. Everything that a live speaker does, from topic selection to keeping people entertained to building an audience, that applies to you and your podcast. The second thing is that next level podcasters are all doing live events. It is not just Jon Acuff. I know another guy who's got a podcast about hard rock and heavy metal, Chris Krasinski. He's got a live event. It's called Rockin' Pod. I've talked about it. Interviewed the guy from Megadeth. This past year, I was on stage with 3 of the original MTV VJs. I'm getting ready to speak at another live event with him in July. He has built the audience for this through live events. Again, next level podcasters, they are doing live events. It is like an infomercial for your podcast. It enables people to see you, get to know you, like you, trust you, agree with you. That's what gets people over to your podcast. If you're interested in doing more live events, getting paid for the live events that you do, then it's a double whammy. Not only are you growing your audience, but you're also getting paid to grow your audience. That's why I call it an infomercial. Here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn the stories your promo materials tell about you, how to get on a TEDx stage. What would that do for you? They got TEDx events everywhere. They got one where I am here in Nashville, a couple of them actually. They got one in the burbs, and each of them have very large audiences. How to double your bookings, speaking in the college market. How many colleges are there? They need speakers. They need speakers to talk about what it is that you are doing. They pay money. The checks don't bounce, easy to work with, and they're everywhere. You don't want to travel? Just travel around your state. Just do it locally. You can make a lot of money doing that. If you've got a youth-oriented podcast, it's a great way to grow that audience. How to create true fans. The 7-second speech that every speaker needs. Top reasons why event professionals won't hire you. Then you fix that. Give them the top reasons to hire you. 6 steps to turn your expertise into a high-profit business. Do the same thing with your podcast. 6 steps to turn your expertise into a high-profit podcast. Again, the live event, free to attend. You got nothing to lose. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com if you want to sign up for it. First day recordings are free. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. That's it. I got some new episodes for you coming up. Had a great interview with Joe from Stacking Benjamins talking about the behind the scenes of that business. Speaking of live events, he's in the middle of a 40-city tour. He got a book deal because of his podcast. Now he's on a 40-city tour promoting that book. The 40-city tour paid for by sponsors. Think about that. He's got all this travel. He's making money on this thing. And he's selling books, making him even more money. And he's promoting his podcast. He's got even more listeners. That's when his advertising rates go up. That's when his live speaking fees go up. You can see how this thing connects. Also interviewed another Joe. He's got the 1% Better podcast. If you're interested in becoming a better speaker, communicator, call it Kaizen in Japan. Small incremental progress. Getting better just a little bit at a time, and it adds up. He's got a podcast all about that. We talked about the behind the scenes of that, mentorship, some things that are going to make you better as a speaker, public communicator, podcaster. That is coming up. If you want to make sure that you do not miss these, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. And as a reminder, have I mentioned it yet? The newsletter.bigpodcast.com for all the links to everything that I've talked about today. Newsletter.bigpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being here on Build a Big Podcast. Please do tell your friends. Had a conversation with one guy. I thought this was interesting. He said, man, I'm not going to tell my friends about you. I don't want them finding out what I know. Here's what I told him. I'm telling you. Rising tides lift all boats. You've heard that. In podcasting, it is a lot more fun when you do it with other people. It's not fun to be alone, to be the only one who's doing well. When somebody else is learning something, he can share it with you. When you're learning something, you share it with other people. It's a lot more fun with a friend. Tell your friends, newsletter.bigpodcast.com. I will see you on the next episode of Build a Big Podcast.